Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Aurora Winter, who's the CEO of Same Page Publishing, and we're going to be talking today about empowering people to live up to their full potential. Aurora, welcome to the program.
Hey, so great to be on the show with you, Mike.
Hey, I'm excited to talk about this topic because, wow, full potential. I think that so many people take the shortcut and the easy way out, and they just want to get from point A to point B, check the box, and go done, 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 done. And they don't really take the time to do it to the utmost of their ability. And I think that really detracts from full potential. So I really am excited to hear about your thoughts on how people can do that. Before we get going, though, give us a little bit of your background and then what led you to focusing on this in your business.
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur like you. I've got an MBA, and it would just frustrate me so much as my friends and family members and clients would have a great idea for a startup, a great idea, but they couldn't convey what the heck they were up to. Nobody understood. They, for example, I had one event, and Tarny Williams was there. He's one of my clients, and at the event, everybody and I like him. I trust him. I know he's super smart. I have no idea what his business is, even though he had spoken for 15 minutes. And it was heart-wrenching because his business was going to crash because he wasn't able to raise capital. But with a bit of coaching and a bit of training, by the end of that event, everybody said, oh, now I see what you're up to. And people even invested in his company, and he went on to raise over 7 figures and launch that company, Blueprint Reality. And so I love to help people get the meat of their message clear. You know, like people cannot generally answer the simple question, what do you do?
Yeah.
They either give a one-word answer like, I'm a lawyer. That doesn't go anywhere. Or they give a long, convoluted, far too detailed answer that somebody who doesn't have a PhD in that topic can't understand.
And you lost them at the second sentence, and they're just kind of eyes glazed over, and you think you nailed that elevator pitch, and you just lost them long ago.
Exactly. So what I help people do is really clarify what they do so they can turn their experience into insights and their words into wealth. And the result is that my clients have raised millions of dollars for startups in tech industries and all kinds of different industries. They've given TEDx talks that have been well received. They've written best-selling books, and they attract their ideal client. Plus, they feel good that they have a solid answer for that question. What do you do?
Yeah, and you know, it makes me think of, first of all, you need to know precisely and exactly who your ideal client is so that when your message is clear and delivered to them, that they can understand it. So is that part of your work with clients, is to help them really clarify that, and then moving into what message would they best like to hear?
I think our MBAs are showing here. Absolutely. People need to know, what is the problem that you're the answer to? Yeah. I like to ask my clients three questions. You know, what do you love to do? And what are you really, really good at that you've spent, the 10,000 hours? But then the third question is, who is that worth the most to? Because you're running a business after all, not a charity, and it needs to fund itself. So answering the question, who is your ideal client, is another way of saying, what are you really, really good at that you still love to do, because you don't want you doing something you loathe, even though you're good at it, and who is it worth the most to? So, for example, I worked with 2 clients who are dentists in San Diego, Janice and Justine Doan. And when they first came to me, they were extraordinary dentists. They were top-notch. They'd won a bunch of awards, but they were marketing just like every other dentist with, free exam or $99 exam. They hadn't set themselves apart. But when they took my training and got really clear on their $1 million message, and then they wrote a book as well with my help, their business went from $1.5 million to about $6 million. So that's a huge increase. And the reason was exactly what you're saying, Mike, was focusing, first identifying their ideal client, and then having marketing messages that would resonate with their ideal client. In dentistry, as I learned a lot about dentistry while I was helping them write their book, you know, an average client might spend $100, $200, but somebody who's in their 40s might come in and spend $5,000 or $10,000 or even $15,000. So the difference between attracting just any client or any patient versus attracting an ideal patient who really is committed to investing in their teeth and who may need crowns or may need plastic surgery or wants to have their full meal done on their teeth while they still can, made a big difference. So the book that I helped them write is called Keys to a Healthy Smile After 40, 7 Keys to Feeling 7 Years Younger. So, yes, you want to reverse engineer everything so that you attract your ideal client and not just anybody.
Yes. That is that is huge, and here's we're both I'm saying air quotes bookies. We both read, write, help people with books. We love books, all day books. And before we started this interview, I talked to you about The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. You need to get it. But it reminds me of another book here, and hopefully you've read this one. If not, you better do this again, and you're gonna have a long weekend. Have you read the book by Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand?
I have not read his book yet.
Oh, good night. Okay.
It's been recommended.
You better block your appointments and put your phone.
Read it, actually.
Yeah, you need to get that book. Here's a couple of the key points that he teaches in that book, and it aligns right with what you're saying. Number one, he talks about over and over: if you confuse, you lose. And secondly, we need to be using our content, our messaging, brand messaging, so clearly that people don't have to think too hard about it, because he talks about burning calories, mental calories. If you say something to someone about your business and they kind of almost cock their head and they're like, they don't take the time. Now, in person, they might smile and nod their head and go, oh, that's nice. But if you're on the website or you're reading something online, they're not going to give you the time of day because it's too hard for them to comprehend. It's just like, tell me what you do. So be clear and brief. And I think it was Albert Einstein that was known for saying, if you can't explain what you do to like a 9-year-old, then you don't even know what you do. And it really, really
exactly.
has some teeth to it. So I would say to you, what do you recommend when you start working with someone to help them clarify their message? Where do you start?
Well, I like what you're sharing about building a story brand. Like, many people want a logo, but your brand is not a logo. It's a story. So we start with the story of, why did this person start this business? What was it about it that appealed to them? And then the stories of their clients and the transformation that they provide, the problems that they solve, and the value of that solution. But I also really liked what you were sharing about the calories that it takes to follow a message. And I studied neuroscience when I took my MBA in 2014, 2015, and I had a focus on neuroscience. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that most people make. But the top 4% in any field communicate differently, and one of the reasons they communicate differently is because they've taken the time to understand the neuroscience of how messages are sent and received.
And encoded.
The other reason that the other reason that the top 4% communicate differently and therefore get the lion's share of income and influence is they devote time to practicing their communication. Like Steve Jobs practiced for 3 weeks before an Apple pitch. He didn't just wing it. And many people spend all of their time doing whatever they're doing in their business or innovating their latest tech gadget, but they spend zero time communicating and focusing and practicing how they're going to talk about it. So if you want to be in that top 4%, you need to do 2 things. One is understand the neuroscience of communication, which I'll give you a highlight in a second. And the second thing is to really understand that the story itself creates value. And that a really great product or service without a compelling story is not as good. In fact, there was a really interesting book that I can give you for reading suggestion. And it studied 100 objects. The book's called Significant Objects. And they put these 100 different things on eBay for sale with a story or without a story. And the stories created significance Some of them were negative, some of them were positive, some were written by professional writers, some were written by amateurs. But guess, Mike, guess what difference a story made to the price the object sold for on eBay?
200%.
Excellent guess. Off by a factor of 10.
Whoa. 2,000%?
2,700%. The price increased by 27-fold. So when I say that the story itself creates value, I am not kidding. So people who do not spend time thinking about the story or stories that they want to share and practicing their communication so that they're smooth and polished and confident and comfortable, they are leaving up to 27 times the value on the table. So don't even do that. Yeah.
Okay, so let me tie in.
You want to comment on that before I go into neuroscience?
Yeah. One thing that I heard you say that I want to tie into the Go Giver book by Bob Burg. A lot of times people think, oh, got to give value in advance of asking for business. Oh, that's a neat concept, but wow, I can't give away my service. I can't give away my thing. And it's not necessarily all the time give away some part of your service you charge for. Sometimes it's giving your attention. It's giving them, like what you just said, giving them an easy way to understand and digest and comprehend what you have to say. That is a service and a value to people, because your competition, when they don't, helps you to stand out, because now they go, boy, that just makes all the sense in the world. Thank you for that. And that ties into being that go-giver, giving value, because what happens is now all of a sudden people look at you, and then when you deliver the first, thing to them really easily, crisply, they know that that's how you run your business. Let me ask you this question too. When you're talking about the messaging, let's use those dentists that you worked with and mentioned. You helped them hone in their message. I'm certain that you came up with a unique selling proposition, an elevator pitch, one paragraph, or just a quick little book. And they could probably, if we pulled them on the line right now, they could probably tell us right this second. But here's my question: do you feel like their front desk employees and anyone that works in their office also could say the same unique selling proposition and messaging?
This is one thing I so believe in, is training the whole team.
Yes.
Because if the leaders have a clear vision and a clear message, but the front desk doesn't convey it, that's a missed opportunity. Absolutely, for sure. And 100%. Like you were saying about being the go-giver, just to come back and finish that loop, is one of the ways you can be a giver is by understanding communication. And so most smart people think that if they send an Excel spreadsheet equivalent of data to somebody else, that the other person opens it up with Excel, to use that metaphor, and receives the data. But because of what you just said, Mike, there's a cost to processing data. And besides, that Excel might have, a virus in it. People don't do that. Yeah. So a quick tip for people, they can use this right away, is understanding the neuroscience. Is there the croc brain, the ancient reptilian brain, is the first hurdle you need to pass. So what you need to do to attract the croc brain is show that you've got something glittery, something like a bauble, something new, something that it can eat, something it can have sex with. And so if you have something like that, then it'll the person listening will give you a bit more of an attention. You have to get their 5-second attention before you get a bit more. So if you get past the croc brain, imagine that you're, a knight or a damsel on your steed around that castle. You get past the croc brain, so the drawbridge comes down, so you can trot in on your horse. But you're not talking to the king and queen. You're not talking to the cerebral cortex or the higher processing functionings, which I'm calling the king and queen. You're in the courtyard. So what happens in the courtyard? Well, that's the midbrain. That's the second filter you need to get by. And the midbrain is filtering for connection. What does this mean? Is this somebody I know, like, and trust? Or have they been sent by somebody that I know, like, and trust? Or do they have authority? Like Mike, you've got a bunch of books on Amazon, including your new one, Brevity plus Clarity equals Authority. So you would pass that social sniff test and not get thrown back to the crocodile. But then once you pass that social test, which needs to be the second chunk of your communication, then you can be ushered in to see the king and queen, the right and left hemispheres of the cerebral cortex, the higher functioning. But it's more like the Game of Thrones. So you could be tossed out at any moment, and Cersei's not very nice. So you need to chunk your communication in little bits that play both to the king and the queen. It doesn't ignore one or the other. And if you can study neuroscience and even implement what I just said there in those couple of sound bites, is just focus first on understanding. You need to tier it in 3 chunks to appeal to the croc brain, that it's interesting but not too dangerous that it should run away, and that it's socially acceptable or desirable, or been sent from somebody who is a recognized authority like Mike. And then you get to give your highfalutin message. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And let me even add something to that as well. Let's say you get all of those things done, and then you can give your message. And let's say that that's in the form of a discovery call, clarity call, and you're hoping to give the message so that they hire you for whatever that you do, right? You can blow it. Mm-hmm. At that point. So everything has to work together. You have to have that pre-frame where people are seeing you and you know, the authority and expertise and the giving and the value, all those things. You have to have some third-party social proof, maybe reviews, case studies, and things like that. And then you have to have the messaging that's so dialed in that they go, ooh, that speaks to me somehow, and yeah, I just want to learn more. But then when they get with you maybe on a call or a webinar, if you are brusque or not caring or rambling or whatever, you still can lose it. So you have to have all these things working together, and it's way harder than just, it's so easy just to hear it and go, yeah, makes sense. Okay, cool. But you might need to have that external third-party person like yourself that comes in and goes, let's roll up our sleeves and get this thing done, because you can't see the forest for the trees. You know, Aurora can see it for you and with you.
Yeah, nothing like having a media coach.
Correct. So let's talk a little bit about what you do working with clients. What kind of engagement does that look like? And then we'll wrap up with how can people reach out and pick up copies of your books.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Well, I have 2 ways of working with clients. Well, 3 ways. One is you can read books. That's almost free. And my latest book is called Turn Words into Wealth, Blueprint for Your Business, Brand, and Book. And then if people want more, then I've got training in how to write a book, or how to create your $1 million message, or how to pitch, how to do a TEDx talk. And that comes combined with one-on-one coaching, typically with one of the coaches on my team, sometimes with me. And then I also work with very successful entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who are already making 6 or 7 or 8 figures. And I help them with their media coaching. And if they'd like, I help them write their book or craft their pitch to raise capital. So very specifically targeted on exactly what their needs might be. And I really like it because I love to help people see that there's a lot of gold in their life experience. And a lot of people just gloss over the things that they haven't fully processed. But sometimes their bankruptcies, their setbacks, their health issues, when looked at more deeply, those are real sources of wisdom and compassion and even enlightenment that they can offer to the world, as well as their expertise and experience. So I love helping people get clear on their message. I've been a writer since I was 9, so I'm a real bookie.
Well, that's neat. My youngest daughter is published her first book when she was 18, so last year, and it was a Christian fiction novella. So it's really neat to see like the young group getting, and she actually loves paper books, not the digital. Nothing wrong with digital or Kindle, but she loves touching books and reading, and so she can literally read a 300-page book in like a week and a half. I mean, it's just like she is a voracious reader, and so I love when I hear that you love pouring into people. So let's just wrap up with what's your latest book you're coming out with. What's that, and what's the title? I mean, what's the focus of the book?
Yeah, so my new book is called Turn Words into Wealth, Blueprint for Your Business, Brand, and Book. And it's really about how to make money and make a difference with your message. I walk through in more detail the neuroscience and give people examples so that they can, just from reading the book, get more clear on their message. And also, most people think most people are completely confused, or they don't understand. It's not their fault. They don't understand how money is actually made. And so they imagine that best-selling authors, that they must make money from selling books. But that's not so. Even top authors make 85% of their money from other things, such as offering extra services and helping people as you do. Mike, you've got a podcast, you've got a whole bunch of books, and I'm sure they're extremely successful. And yet my guess would be that that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what people see. But there's a whole business of service and contribution that is under that. And so I walk people through and give them specific examples of my clients, myself, as well as, famous people like Tim Ferriss or Winston Churchill, so that they can see, oh, now I get it. I see that a book or a podcast or a YouTube video or a pitch is only part of a bigger picture, and I need to get it all working together. As you were talking about earlier, everything needs to all work together.
100%. Well, Aurora, thank you so much for coming on. It was wonderful talking with you. I think we could have gone on for about another 3.5 hours and still be just taking our first breath, but we'll need to wrap it up here, and I will make sure to have your links to your websites right in the show notes. And I really appreciate you coming on and helping us understand how to keep our message clear and concise.
Thanks so much, Mike. I really enjoyed it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.